Since the beginning of time, a silent war has been waged, a battle between darkness and light, between truth and deception. In the midst of this struggle, certain individuals have been marked, chosen, and set apart for a divine purpose. But here's the shocking reality: most of them never realize it. They go through life struggling, questioning, feeling lost in a world that prioritizes wealth, status, and material gain over the undeniable calling that has been upon their lives since birth. What if you were one of them? What if, since childhood, signs have been revealing your divine purpose, but you either ignored them or failed to recognize their true meaning? What if everything you have been through, your struggles, your victories, your moments of deep isolation, was all part of a greater plan? The world teaches us that success is measured by riches, luxury, and financial prosperity, that if you don't have money, you have nothing. But the truth is, God's ways are higher. His definition of abundance goes beyond material wealth. It is tied to destiny, to purpose, to the impact you were created to make in this world. Look around. People chase after money, believing it will bring them happiness, yet they still feel empty. They pursue luxury, convinced it will give them security, yet they live in fear of losing it all. But when God marks someone, when He places a calling over a person's life, there is nothing in this world, no amount of riches, no human ambition that can compare to walking in His divine will. If you have ever felt different, if you have ever sensed that you don't quite fit into the world's mold, if challenges have come against you since childhood, pay close attention. That is no coincidence. Many of the greatest men and women in the Bible, those who changed history, were set apart from birth. But they all had to recognize the signs, embrace their calling, and step into their purpose. And today, you are about to discover something that could change your life forever. Signs that God may have been revealing to you since childhood. Signs that indicate you were chosen, set apart, and destined for something much greater than what this world offers. But before we go any further, do not let this moment pass you by. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel and turn on notifications, because what we are about to uncover is knowledge that many live their entire lives without ever discovering. And once you learn these truths, you will never see your life the same way again. Chosen from the womb. Your purpose was decided before you were born. I need you to do something important. I know your time is valuable, but if you are here, it's because you are someone committed to the love of God. You recognize that His word has the power to transform lives. So right now, take a moment and declare this over your life in the comments. I trust that God will give me victory to overcome every obstacle. When you speak words of faith, you are aligning yourself with His promises. And I will personally give a heart to every comment as a sign that we stand together in this truth. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to carry an undeniable presence, a sense of divine direction, even from childhood? The answer is found in Scripture. Before you were even formed, God had already written your story. In Jeremiah 1:5, God told the prophet, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This is not just a statement for Jeremiah. It is a spiritual law that applies to every person called by God. Look at Moses. From birth, his life was surrounded by danger. Pharaoh had decreed that every Hebrew male child be killed. Yet God had a plan. Moses was placed in a basket, sent down the river, and miraculously adopted into the very palace that sought to destroy him. He was raised in luxury, surrounded by wealth, riches, and privilege. But despite all of this, his heart was drawn to his true purpose, leading God's people to freedom. Why is it that those chosen by God often face obstacles before they even have the chance to live out their calling? Because the enemy recognizes destiny before the chosen one does. He will try to destroy you before you ever realize who you are. If you have ever faced opposition, rejection, or circumstances that seem designed to break you, understand this. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. Your struggles are not proof of your failure. They are evidence of your calling. Now, as you reflect on this message, ask yourself, are you ready to embrace the purpose God has placed on your life? Because the moment you recognize it, everything changes. It was never about you. It was about the calling placed on your life. Think about the story of Jesus. Before he could even speak a word, King Herod sought to kill him, ordering the massacre of innocent children. Why? Because darkness always tries to eliminate light before it has a chance to shine. But what the enemy intends for harm, God turns into preparation. There is no wealth in this world, no amount of money or luxury that can compare to walking in the divine plan of God. The world glorifies riches, yet even the wealthiest person without purpose is empty. This is why so many people who seem to have it all still feel lost. Without God's calling, without understanding why you were placed on this earth, nothing truly satisfies. The truth is, the greatest wealth you can have is not material. It is knowing that you were chosen, that you were set apart for something greater. And the signs have been there all along. The moments when you felt different, the struggles you faced, the times you sensed that your life had more meaning than what was visible. The problem is that many people ignore these signs. They allow the world to dictate their worth based on money, luxury, and status. But the chosen ones? They are called to something deeper. Their inheritance is not just earthly riches, but eternal significance. So ask yourself, have you noticed moments in your life where God's hand was clearly at work? Times when He protected you, directed you, or placed certain desires in your heart that set you apart? If so, understand this. It is no accident. If you have ever felt different from those around you, if your spirit has ever wrestled with the things of this world, then there is something you need to understand. Something that will become even clearer as we continue this journey. Now tell me, does this resonate with you? Have you ever felt like you were set apart for something greater, even if you didn't fully understand it? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's move forward. There is much more to uncover. Signs in childhood. How God reveals His calling. Early. There is something extraordinary about childhood. It is the stage of life where the purest version of ourselves exists, before the world tries to shape us, before doubts creep in, before we are taught to suppress what we instinctively know deep in our souls. It is also the time when God often begins to reveal signs of a person's divine calling. But here's the reality. Most people miss these signs. They dismiss them as mere coincidences, childhood imagination, or moments that hold no real significance. But the truth is, nothing in God's plan is accidental. Every detail, every experience, every desire imprinted in your heart from a young age has meaning. In the Bible, many of God's greatest leaders exhibited signs of their calling early on, yet those around them often failed to recognize it. Take Joseph, for example. As a child, he had vivid dreams, dreams that revealed his future, dreams that set him apart. He saw visions of leadership, greatness, and purpose. But instead of encouragement, he was met with jealousy and rejection. His own brothers despised him, his father rebuked him. Yet those dreams were not random. They were a direct indication of the divine purpose placed on his life. Now think about this. How often have people dismissed the very things that made you different? Maybe you were always drawn to spiritual matters while others chased material success. Maybe you felt a deep compassion for others, while those around you pursued wealth and luxury without concern for anything beyond their own desires. Or perhaps you had insights, ideas, and gifts that seemed unusual for your age. If you have ever felt like an outsider, if you have ever felt like your mind was wired differently from those around you, know this. It was not by accident. The chosen ones often feel out of place in a world that is not their home. Look at Samuel. As a child, he heard the voice of God calling his name in the temple, but even he didn't recognize it at first. He thought it was Eli, the priest, calling him. It wasn't until Eli perceived what was happening that Samuel realized God himself was speaking to him. How many people go through life hearing that same divine call, but never recognizing it for what it truly is? God has been calling you. The question is, have you been listening? For some, the signs of their calling come through unusual wisdom or understanding at a young age. Solomon, for example, was given wisdom beyond his years because his heart was aligned with God's purpose. Others, like David, displayed courage far greater than what was expected of them. While the world saw only a shepherd boy, God saw a king. The world is quick to measure people by material success, money, riches, luxury, but God measures a person by their heart, by their obedience, and by their willingness to embrace his purpose. Society glorifies those who build wealth, but God raises those who build legacies. Now consider your own childhood. Were there moments when you sensed that you were different? Were there desires placed in your heart that others didn't understand? Did you find yourself drawn to things that seemed odd to those around you? Maybe you had a longing to help others, while your peers only cared about their own gain. Maybe you saw injustice and felt a deep, burning desire to make a difference, while others simply accepted the way things were. Or perhaps you had talents and insights that no one else around you could explain. These were not coincidences. When God chooses someone, he begins working in their life early. But society teaches us to ignore these signs, to prioritize the things of this world, like wealth, possessions, and status, over the voice of God. Yet no amount of money can buy purpose, and no luxury can replace a divine calling. Think about it. What moments in your life have pointed to something greater? What experiences from your childhood now make sense in light of what you are discovering? Because once you begin to recognize the signs, you can no longer ignore them. The attack against the chosen. Why the enemy tries to stop you from an early age. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to go through life with little resistance, while others face battle after battle, even from a young age? It's as if they are marked, as if there is an unseen force working to suppress them before they even have a chance to rise. That is not a coincidence. It is a strategy, and it happens to those who are chosen. Throughout history, those with a divine calling have always been targeted by opposition. The enemy recognizes destiny before the chosen one does. He does not wait for them to grow into their purpose. He tries to eliminate them before they ever realize who they truly are. Look at Moses. Before he could even speak, Pharaoh had ordered the execution of all Hebrew male infants. The enemy knew that a deliverer was coming, so he moved to destroy him before he could fulfill his purpose. Look at Jesus. Before he had even begun his ministry, King Herod sent soldiers to slaughter innocent children. Darkness tried to snuff out the light before it could shine. The same pattern repeats itself time and time again. Those marked by God often endure hardship, rejection, and battles that seem far too great for their age. If you have faced resistance from an early age, if your life has been filled with challenges that seemed unfair or unexplainable, you need to understand this truth. The enemy attacks what he fears. And he does not fear those who live for themselves, those who chase after wealth, riches, and luxury without purpose. No, he fears those who are called by God to disrupt the plans of darkness. He fears those who have been set apart to bring light into the world. Many people wonder why their lives have been marked by hardship when they have done nothing to deserve it. But the truth is, your battles are proof of your calling. The world often equates hardship with failure, People assume that if someone is struggling, they must be doing something wrong. But in the kingdom of God, the opposite is often true. The fiercest battles are reserved for those with the greatest callings. The attacks you have faced were not about your present, they were about your future. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. Daniel was thrown into a den of lions for refusing to abandon his faith. Esther was taken from her family and forced into the palace of a pagan king. Every one of them endured suffering before they stepped into their purpose. Now consider your own life. Have you ever wondered why certain things happened to you? Why you faced rejection, pain, or opposition that seemed far greater than what others around you experienced? Perhaps you grew up in a broken home, feeling unwanted or unseen. Maybe you faced betrayal from those you trusted. Maybe you struggled with obstacles that seemed designed to break you, but through it all, something inside you refused to give up. That is the mark of the chosen. Because here's the reality. If the enemy can convince you that you are worthless, that you are just another person struggling to survive in a world obsessed with money and material gain, then you will never step into the fullness of your purpose. If he can distract you with the pursuit of luxury and riches, making you believe that your value is measured by what you own instead of who God created you to be, then he has already won. But those who recognize the truth are unstoppable. They understand that their wealth is not measured in money, but in divine purpose. They know that their struggles are not signs of failure, but of preparation. So if you have ever felt like your life has been under attack, if you have wondered why nothing comes easy for you while others seem to have smooth paths, do not be discouraged. The battles you have faced were never about destroying you. They were about shaping you. They were about preparing you for what is coming. And if you feel the weight of that battle now, know this: your breakthrough is closer than you think. If this message has spoken to you, if you have ever felt like your struggles were unfair, but now you see that they had a purpose, take a moment to give this video a like. Not only does it help spread this message to more people who need to hear it, but it is also a declaration of faith, a sign that you are choosing to see beyond the struggle into the victory that God has prepared for you. Because your story is not over. In fact, it's only just beginning. The development of the chosen, how God uses trials to prepare you. There is a moment in every chosen person's life when they begin to question everything. Why has their journey been filled with challenges? Why do they feel different from those around them? Why does it seem like the dreams God placed in their heart are always met with resistance? The answer is simple: preparation. God does not send untrained warriors into battle. He does not elevate untested leaders. Those who are called to great things must first endure seasons of refining, where their faith, character, and endurance are tested. And while the world may view hardship as a sign of failure, God sees it as a sign of preparation. Look at Joseph. He had visions of leadership, dreams of greatness. Yet what happened? He was betrayed, enslaved, and falsely imprisoned. From the outside, it looked as though his life was a series of tragic misfortunes. But in reality, God was preparing him for the palace. Look at David. He was anointed king as a young boy, yet instead of immediately stepping into his destiny, he spent years in the wilderness, running for his life, facing battle after battle. He was called, but he was not yet ready to carry the weight of the throne. His trials shaped him into the leader he needed to be. Even Moses, who was raised in wealth and luxury, was not immediately sent to deliver Israel. Instead, God took him into the wilderness for 40 years. Why? Because Moses had to be stripped of his dependency on riches and power. He had to learn humility, obedience, and total reliance on God. Trials are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to develop you. But here's where most people get it wrong. They see struggle as a sign that they are not called, when in reality, struggle is often the very proof that they are. The enemy does not attack those who pose no threat. And God does not allow hardships without a purpose. Think about it. If God gave you everything you were meant to have before you were ready for it, would you be able to handle it? If Joseph had gone straight to Pharaoh's palace without enduring slavery and prison, would he have had the wisdom to rule a nation? If David had gone straight to the throne without years of battle, would he have had the strength to lead? The process is necessary. This is where so many chosen ones make a critical mistake. They look at the world and see people who have built their lives on money, luxury, and status. They see the rich prospering while they struggle. They begin to doubt God's plan. True success. What the world calls success is not. What God calls success, money fades. Wealth can be lost in a moment. Luxury is temporary, but purpose is eternal. And here's something even deeper. Sometimes God will withhold riches from those he has called, because he knows that wealth without purpose can destroy a person. History has seen many rise to power, only to fall just as quickly because they were not prepared for the weight of success. God is not just preparing you for elevation, he is preparing you to sustain it. If you are in a season of waiting, struggle, or uncertainty, understand this. It is not punishment, it is preparation. Look at your life. Look at the battles you have faced. Look at the things God has taken you through. Do you really think it was all for nothing? Number every hardship, every rejection, every moment of struggle was shaping you, strengthening you, and teaching you, because when the time comes for you to step into the fullness of what God has for you, you will not just survive, you will thrive. And the best part, what is coming will be worth everything you have endured. The gifts that appear from childhood and how to use them for God. There is something powerful about the gifts God places inside a person. They are not random, and they are not small. They are clues, signs of what he has called you to do. The problem is that most people never recognize their gifts, or they misuse them for things that were never part of God's plan. From the moment a child is born, there are signs of what they were created to do. But the world has trained people to ignore these signs, to suppress them in favor of chasing wealth, luxury, and success, as society defines it. Yet the gifts that God places in a person's life are not just for personal gain, they are for divine purpose. Look at Samuel. Even as a child, he had the ability to hear God's voice when others could not. That was not something he learned, it was something that was in him from the beginning. Look at Solomon. Even in his youth, he understood that wisdom was more valuable than riches or luxury. When given the opportunity to ask for anything, he didn't request money. He asked for understanding, and because his heart was in the right place, God gave him wisdom beyond measure, as well as wealth beyond imagination. But here's the key. Gifts are only as powerful as the way they are used. There are many people who are talented, skilled, and gifted, yet they spend their lives chasing money instead of purpose. They use their influence for personal gain instead of for the kingdom. They have been given abilities that could change lives, yet they use them only to build their own success. And here's what most people don't realize. Gifts that are not used for God will never bring true fulfillment. The world will tell you that money is the answer, that if you are gifted in something, you should use it to gain wealth, power, and a life of luxury. But here is the truth. No amount of money will satisfy a person who is living outside of their purpose. How many people have reached the top of their field, acquired riches, built an empire, only to find themselves empty? Because without God, even the greatest success is meaningless. Your gifts were given to you for a reason. So the question is, how are you using them? Are you using what God has placed inside of you for His glory? Or are you using it only to build your own success? Are you recognizing the talents He has given you? Or have you ignored them because they do not fit the world's definition of success? Maybe you have always been a natural leader. Maybe you have the ability to inspire others. Maybe you have a heart for helping people, a mind that sees solutions others cannot, a talent that could bring hope to the broken. Whatever it is not by accident. When God gives a gift, it is because He has assigned a purpose to it. And the greatest fulfillment, the greatest peace, does not come from wealth. It comes from using what you were given for the purpose you were created for, because at the end of it all, when everything else fades, when money, luxury, and status no longer matter, only one thing will remain: what you did with what God placed inside you. The calling becomes clear. The moment you must embrace who you are. There comes a moment in the life of every chosen one when things begin to shift. A moment when everything that once seemed unclear suddenly starts to make sense. A moment when you realize that your life has never been random, that your struggles were never meaningless, and that every experience, both good and bad, was leading you to something greater. For some, this realization comes through a life-changing event. For others, it comes gradually, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. But for every chosen one, there is a defining moment when they must make a choice. Will they embrace their calling, or will they continue to run from it? Look at Moses. He spent 40 years in Egypt, living in the wealth and luxury of Pharaoh's palace. He had access to riches, status, and a life of comfort, but none of it could erase the truth of who he was. Deep inside, he knew that he was not just another prince of Egypt. He was called to something greater. And when the moment came, he had to choose. Would he ignore his purpose and continue living in luxury, or would he step into the unknown and embrace his divine assignment? Look at Esther. She was taken from her home, placed in a palace, and given a life of wealth beyond imagination. But when her people were in danger, she had to make a decision: stay silent and enjoy the comforts of royalty, or risk everything to fulfill her purpose. The chosen ones always come to a crossroads, and when they do, they can no longer pretend to be like everyone else. Maybe you have felt this before. Maybe there has been a tension inside of you, a feeling that the life you have been living is not the life you were created for. Maybe you have tried to fit in, to chase after the things the world values: money, riches, luxury, yet something inside of you knows that there is more. This is the moment that separates those who answer the call from those who ignore it. The choice that changes everything. And here's the truth: God will not force you to embrace your purpose. He will call you. He will prepare you. He will place signs along the way. But in the end, you must choose. Some people delay this decision for years, for decades, even for a lifetime. They sense the calling, but they are afraid. Afraid of losing comfort, afraid of stepping into the unknown, afraid of leaving behind the things they have worked so hard to build. But here's what most don't realize: when you step into your calling, everything else aligns. The world teaches that success comes from striving, from chasing wealth, from working endlessly to build a life of riches and luxury. But in the kingdom of God, success comes from alignment. When you walk in purpose, the provision follows. When you say yes to the calling, everything else begins to make sense. Many people live their entire lives chasing after things that will never fulfill them because they never had the courage to embrace what they were truly meant to do. But what about you? If you have made it this far, it is not by accident. God has been speaking to you, confirming things in your spirit, showing you that everything in your life has been leading up to something greater. So now the question is simple: will you answer the call? Because when you do, everything changes. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who has been struggling with their purpose, someone who feels lost, share this with them now. Don't wait, because sometimes all it takes is one word, one confirmation, to set a person on the path they were always meant to walk. When the chosen one steps into their destiny, everything has been leading to this moment. The struggles, the trials, the lessons, all of it was preparation for what is coming next. There is a point in every chosen person's life when they no longer have the option to stay in the background, when their calling is no longer just a distant thought, but a reality that they must embrace. It is the moment when the weight of their purpose becomes undeniable. The moment when they realize that they can no longer live as though their life is ordinary. Look at Jesus. He spent 30 years in preparation, waiting for the appointed time. And when the moment came, when John the Baptist declared, "Behold the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world," John 1:29, he did not hesitate. He stepped forward, fully aware of the mission ahead, fully aware of the cost. Look at David. He was anointed as king long before he ever sat on the throne. The moment that changes everything. David had already been anointed as king, but nothing changed immediately. He remained in the background, unseen and overlooked. But the moment he faced Goliath, everything shifted. The years of obscurity, rejection, and waiting had all led to this one defining moment, a moment where he had to step forward and act. Every chosen one experiences this, a moment when they can no longer remain silent, a moment when they can no longer pretend to be something they are not, a moment when they must step into their true identity. For some, this moment comes suddenly, an event that shakes them awake. For others, it happens over time, like a slow but steady awakening. But for every chosen person, the time will come when they must rise. The battle doesn't end, it intensifies. Here's what most people don't realize. When you step into your purpose, the battle doesn't end, it intensifies. The enemy does not fight those who are passive. He fights those who are dangerous, and nothing is more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness than a person who fully embraces their calling. This is why some people experience even greater resistance the moment they decide to walk in obedience to God. Because stepping into purpose is not just about receiving, it is about responsibility. Moses did not become a leader without facing opposition. Joseph did not become a ruler without enduring years of suffering. Esther did not save her people without risking her life. But here's the truth that separates the chosen from the ordinary. They do not quit. No struggle, no loss, no attack is enough to make them turn back. Because they understand that the price of obedience is far less than the cost of regret. What will you do with this knowledge? So now, the question is not whether you are chosen. That has already been made clear. The real question is, what will you do with what you now know? Will you continue living as though your life is just another story? Or will you rise and step fully into the reason you were created? Because the time is coming, and when it does, those who are truly chosen will no longer be able to remain in the background. They will stand, they will lead, they will change the world. Your choice, stay the same or step forward. If you have felt this stirring in your spirit, if you know deep down that this message was for you, then understand this. You are being called to something greater, and when the moment comes, you must be ready. Now that you have heard this message, you are left with a choice. You can walk away and continue life as if nothing has changed. Or you can take this as the moment where everything shifts, because now you know the truth. You were never ordinary. You were never just another person living on this earth with no direction. You were chosen. Your struggles were not random. The challenges you faced were not meaningless. They were shaping you, refining you, preparing you for something greater. And now you must decide, will you step into that calling? The world will try to pull you away. Don't let it. The world will always try to pull you away. It will tempt you with distractions, riches, and luxury, everything that promises satisfaction but never truly fulfills. It will make you believe that success is about wealth, that your worth is measured by money, that happiness is found in material things. But now you understand something deeper. True fulfillment comes only when you walk in the purpose God has placed on your life. This is why so many people who appear to have it all, money, status, influence, are still empty. Because wealth without purpose is meaningless. Riches without destiny are nothing more than a distraction. But those who walk in their calling have something money cannot buy: peace, confidence, power, clarity, and an unshakable sense of purpose. What will you do with what you have learned? So now I ask you, what will you do with what you have learned? Will you continue ignoring the signs, or will you take this as your wake-up call? Because the time is coming when you will have to make a choice. And those who are truly chosen will no longer be able to stay in the background. They will rise, they will lead, they will change the world. If this spoke to you, take action. If this message has spoken to you, make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss the next powerful revelation. Turn on notifications, because every message here is meant to prepare you for what is ahead. And if this has impacted you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, to a family member, because you never know whose life could be changed by this message. And before you go, there is another message waiting for you, a video that will take everything you have learned here even deeper. Click on the video on your screen right now and continue this journey of discovery, because your calling is not in the future. It starts now.